This is the Final Word World Cup Daily T20s. It's day 8 and a half, second part of day 8. Geoff Lemon in Barbados, Bharat Sundaresan in New York, kind of New York City, almost New York City. The show's brought to you by Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City. Bharat, I'm going to handle this one and try to give you the game that I just saw in the space of 30 seconds, although you were watching it as well. Nobody's been able to score quickly in this tournament. Nobody's been able to get off to quick starts, but Travis Head and David Warner did exactly that. They put on 70 in the first 5 overs, and that allowed Australia to get up to 201, the first 200-plus total of the tournament. And England looked like they were going to run it down pretty comfortably for a while. They were going at 10 and over through the first 7, Buttler and Salt smashing them, and then the wickets started to come. Adam Zampa with the first 2 interventions, and after that it was hard for new players to get going. England, in the end, 165 for 6. They fall 36 runs short. They're in some trouble in the group. And that's it. That's my 30 seconds. But tell me your impressions of the game that you were watching from afar.
You nailed the 30-second review there, just like Australia nailed those first 5 overs. You speak about Travis Head. There's been so much talk about Head and what he did in the IPL, the Sunrisers, and all the talk was, hey, it's just because it's the flat pitches. It's just because, bowlers are being offered on a platter to him. But what we saw today, alongside David Warner, is where his T20 batting is. It was such smart batting, and especially England went the route that a lot of IPL franchises did, where they felt if you just bowl spin to Travis Head early on, you could strangle him. And that's where he kind of disproved that theory. And he's spoken a lot about working on his spin play, especially in the power play. And he showed it today. And it was just outstandingly smart batting from both Warner and Head, using the wind, using the short boundary, and pretty disappointing tactics from England, where yes, you use the 2 spinners, which I understand, but then the way Mark Wood bowled that first over, everything full pace, everything into the pads, allowing David Warner to just free swing over the onside was disappointing. And if you look at it in the long run, that's pretty much where England lost the game.
It was an interesting start, right? Moeen Ali comes out and bowls the first over and goes for only 3 singles. They're trying to work out the pace of the pitch and so on. And so Buttler, I don't know if this was always the plan or if he got a little bit greedy, but he goes, okay, off spin's working. Let's get Will Jackson to bowl the second over. And Travis Head immediately goes big over the leg side for 6. And then goes again. And then goes again. 22 was it off the second over? 3 sixes there. And from there, Australia were rampaging. Despite that quiet first over, they end up with 70 from 5 overs by the time that Warner gets out. And even though you sort of knew that things would slow down or were likely to slow down through the middle, but that start was so far above par that it gave them the possibility to move to an inflated total. I mean, Archer came on and bowled pretty well and ends up with probably the best. Yeah, it was the most impressive bowling performance on the day, and he's economical for the most part. Moeen Ali gets one to stay low that goes through Travis Head, or through Warner rather. Archer gets one to stay low that goes through Travis Head. So nobody makes huge scores. It's one of the teams is leaving the ground behind me, hence the sirens. Head 34 off 18, Warner 39 off 16. Such an accelerated start. And then it goes to a different mode because Marsh and Maxwell come out. They can't score nearly so quickly. They put on 65 in about 12 overs, where Warner and Head put on 70 in 5 overs. But they don't need to be trying to score at the same rate because they've already got such a great launch pad.
And I think credit to Mitchell Marsh and Glenn Maxwell. I mean, from the outside, you could have looked at it and say, oh, they're struggling. They're not able to maintain the run rate that David Warner and Travis Head maintain. But that's clever batting again, right? That's the experience coming through. They realize that they can't go as hard as those 2 did. And because you had that platform, the most important thing was to not waste that platform by going over the top and, kind of losing wickets in the middle and bringing England back into the side. So I thought it was as important a partnership as the opening order or the top order did, both Head and Warner. And look, Glenn Maxwell had his struggles but hit the boundaries when it mattered. I thought Marsh looked good as well. He hit that big 6 like he always does when he goes well. And that partnership kind of like settled it. And then, Stoinis played a big hand as well, like you said. But once Australia had that start, unless they really messed up the middle, they were always going to end up with a big total. And to get 201 on that pitch, we've seen a few matches on that, tells you everything. And you could see how England struggled in the latter half of their innings.
So Liam Livingstone comes on bowling some off-break, leg break, mix-up, licorice, all sorts. He draws Marsh out of his crease and gets him stumped. Very subdued stumping appeal. Nobody celebrated, but he ended up being out of his ground. Maxwell plays one outrageous sort of squared drive that somehow goes over deep third for 6. But he eventually hits one out to deep mid-wicket. So everyone's making these kind of in-between scores. Marsh makes 35, Maxwell makes 28, Stoinis makes 30. Tim David 11 but quickly, Matthew Wade 17 but quickly. So they all do a bit, and those last 3 come in and they're able to hit a few sixes between them, 4 sixes between them to push that score up towards 200. Chris Jordan bowls like a couple of really tidy overs through the middle, but then gets got. Goes for about 18 off that last over that he bowls and suddenly goes from economical to expensive. I mean, Archer finishes up with 1 for 28, which in the circumstances is outstanding. Mark Wood, neglected to mention this in the power play, Mark Wood comes on to bowl the third over. Warner hit him for 3 sixes in the over, got absolutely slotted, and he was bowling with pace. He was bowling, up to 149 k's an hour. But, I mean, there was one full toss that just got timed away over the leg side so sweetly. But a couple of other shots as well from balls that did pitch. And it just looked so easy for Warner to just clip the ball, and it was sailing away for 6. So they were raining sixes. They were all going up onto the roof of the stadiums. You've got the Weeks Worrell Walcott stand, which didn't get its roof tested out, but the Griffith and Hall stand had the roof tested out. The other bigger stand away over mid-wicket did as well. So... and I was worried, they're all covered in solar panels on those roofs. I was worried about the potential damage bill up there. They lost 3 balls during the innings, had to have 3 replacement balls, but nothing particularly helped. And Australia ended up 7 down, but they get to that 201, and I thought in a way it might help England just to have a clear mind and say, we're just going to go out there and attack and do the thing we do. And Salt and Buttler do exactly that. They, like Australia, they face one tidy over from Stark at the start, then they lay into Hazelwood and take 18 was it off him, maybe 12 off him, 6 off Stark. So they're going at about the 10 and over that they need, and they carry on. They start attacking Stark after that. They're hitting him over the leg side. Phil Salt carves another 6 away over deep third, where Travis Head steps on the rope and a catch becomes a 6. And after 7 overs, they're in the 70s. They're cruising along at the 10 and over that they need.
Yeah, and it had to be Adam Zampa, right? Like, who comes and breaks the partnership. And you're right. I thought England were doing it well. They weren't going at the pace at which Australia were going, but that's because they knew they had a target and they knew what their target was. And I thought they started the way you'd expect an England team to start. And Phil Salt just continuing his great form in the IPL. Like what Travis said, he's just coming off playing on pitches where even if they weren't as slow as these, you kind of back yourself to hit off the back foot. And I thought he played really well in that partnership. But I mean, like I said with Australia, what was important was for the middle order to cash in on that good start, which they weren't able to do because, in my opinion, Geoff, I think today, he's done it a few times. I think Adam Zampa has overtaken even the late great Shane Warne as Australia's best ever white ball spinner. I mean, or maybe because it's Shane Warne, you always have to have him as 1, right? Sure. Because it's Warne. So put Zampa in there. I call them 1A and 1B.
You have to put the 99 Edgbaston semi in there, right? You have to put the 4 for there. You have to put the West Indies semi in 96. Yes. I mean, there are some magic performances, but... yeah, maybe in terms of just being there and consistently doing a job in a much less flashy way. It was interesting, the contrast. Adil Rashid was using spin and bowling it wide of the off stump and turning it away and trying to get the Australians to hit across the line, which Maxwell does and gets out. Zampa's attacking the stumps. He's in there, he's bowling sliders, toppies, he's bowling quick. And so that first wicket, he gets Salt bowled with one that skips on, that's about 97 kilometres an hour, and zoots along. And then he picks up Buttler as well, so both of the big threats. The Buttler one was weird though. So Buttler goes 3 reverse sweeps in the 1 over. In between time, he hits a 6 down the ground over long off. Doesn't need to move his feet, just a straight drive for 6, easy as you like. Then plays his 3rd reverse and hits a straight to Cummins, who takes a catch at backward point.
Yeah, and again, I think you spoke about Adam Zampa attacking the stumps. That's been his greatest strength, right? Like he kind of just doesn't give the batter, right-hander or left-hander, that room to free their arms, which a lot of them have been doing in the modern era. And you could see, like even Buttler was getting cramped by what Zampa was doing, much like Salt. I mean, Salt went too early. He just didn't give himself the chance to size up Adam Zampa. But yeah, I mean, that's where I think that game changed. Marcus Stoinis was once again so good with the ball, right, when it mattered most. I thought when I looked at the pitch, I thought both Cummins and Stoinis would have a big role to play. I think Cummins came back and bowled much better, but Stoinis through the middle, and every time he had the ball, he struck twice as well. But I think that was the combination, Stoinis and Zampa, who kind of broke the game for Australia.
Yeah, so it's, Stoinis picks up Will Jacks. So basically, everybody's struggling to get going. Jacks comes in 10 off 10. Bairstow 7 off 13. Harry Brook was scratching around for a bit at the start. Moeen Ali was scratching around for a long time. Then he hits a couple of sixes off Zampa, wasn't it? And which helps boost his scoring. But they're all out trying to hit seamers, basically. Stoinis, Hazelwood, Cummins each pick up a wicket there, getting Jacks, Bairstow, Moeen, trying to hit. Bairstow out to deep mid-wicket, the others, or Moeen to cover, Will Jacks down the ground, Livingston down the ground as well. Mitchell Stark takes takes one really good catch diving forward and takes the other catch to get rid of Livingston. So they were drifting out of it after about 10 overs and never really got back into it, England. It seemed like a fait accompli with about 6 overs to go, given that the required rate kept going up and up. So they finish on 165 for 6, Cummins 2 for 23 off 4, Zampa 2 for 28, and Stoinis 1 for 24 off 3, Hazelwood 1 for 28 off 4. Some pretty good figures all around for Australia. It leaves England in the very difficult position that if Scotland beat Oman, then they'll get to 5 points. And the best that England could do now, if they beat Oman and Namibia, is get to 5 points. And then they'll need to be ahead of Scotland on net run rate, which they won't be at the moment because they've lost quite heavily here. And it would mean that Australia would have the possibility in that last game. Either Scotland could beat Australia and guarantee they'll go through, or Australia could play silly buggers with the net run rate to make sure that Scotland qualify ahead of England, which would be, could be something on the cards. So, all right, it's interestingly set up. Let's take a break. We've got Hall of Fame, and we'll have a quick look at New Zealand, Afghanistan from last night. It is the final word. World Cup Daily, day 8. The sun is setting into my camera, so if you're watching this video, you'll just see like a weird silhouette at the moment. That's the way things are going. It's pretty raucous out here. It's quite fun in Bridgetown, Kensington Oval. I think I said Queen's Park Oval the last episode we did here, which is in a different country. Anyway,
it is.
A message from our friends at Westfield. If you thought the T20 World Cup was the summer's hottest event, think again, because the CBeebies Rainbow Adventure is coming to Westfield, London. This will mean nothing to you or me, Bharat, because we don't have children, but people who do have children, I'm told, will understand this. You can book tickets for an immersive experience for children and grown-ups to enjoy together through the worlds of Bluey, Hey Dougie, Jojo and Gran Gran, and Mr. Tumble and Friends. Truly, a murderer's row of 4 entertainers to rival the great West Indies bowling attack of the 1980s. Tickets selling fast. Fun family day out. Book them now, Westfield, London. Come for the talking dog from Queensland. Stay for the retail-tainment. More great work from our buddies at Westfield. All right, Hall of Fame first, or maybe we'll have a look at New Zealand, Afghanistan. My goodness, I was watching that game down at Oyston's Fish Market last night, which is raucous and amazing. It's like, I just thought it was a fish market. I'd never been before, but it's like the biggest pumping party in town. And there are all kinds of restaurants and bars and things built in shipping containers and stuff, people dancing and having fun and celebrating, except for the few New Zealanders I saw, because they were busy getting bowled out for 50 by Afghanistan after conceding, near enough to 200.
Yeah, and for anyone calling it an upset, think again. I don't think you can call this an upset. We saw... we had that argument a lot of times during the 50-over World Cup, and I was on the side of the upset, but by now I agree with you, and especially in T20 cricket, Afghanistan winning 20-over games against just about anybody is well within the bounds of possibility. I went hard on 200. They made 159, but it felt like 200 when Gurbaz and Ibrahim Zadran were flying along. And just the way they rolled over New Zealand after that as well, kind of telling you what the pitch actually was like. And Gurbaz's innings in particular, he was taking down all comers. And look, and the reason I always talk up Afghanistan is because they are such seasoned T20 players, a lot of them. I mean, we talk about West Indies in the same breath, but Afghanistan are right up there. Not just Rashid, not just the regulars, like the Farooqi and Naveen ul Haq and all these guys, and Gurbaz himself, coming off an IPL where, he performed well, won the IPL and all of that. And I think, look, just go back to the previous game. Look how West Indies struggled against PMG and Afghanistan. Like, those are the signs when you see the teams like reach the next level. The way they bullied Uganda and got the big win out of the way early on, whereas West Indies could not do that against PNG. They might do it against Uganda tonight, but all signs pointing towards, it coming down to West Indies or New Zealand who go through at this point. And I really do hope that Afghanistan go through, whatever happens. I hope there is no derailment like we saw in the 50-over World Cup.
We're genuinely looking at a Super 8 stage featuring the USA, Scotland and Afghanistan as three of the teams going through, which would be incredible for cricket. So Gurbaz 80 off 56 balls. Ibrahim Zadran makes a run a ballish 44 to go with him. They promote Azmatullah, which I like, to number 3 to hit at the end, 22 off 13. And then a few single-figure scores as they slogged around, 159 for 6. But then Fazal Haq Farooqi is turning himself into the most dangerous new ball bowler going around. He keeps taking wickets early, left arm swings it, rapid, that old story, Stark, Bolt and so on. But he's got this freshness and energy. And he ended up picking up another 4 for here, got Finn Allen out first ball. And New Zealand were never at the races. 9 of their scores were in single figures, then plus a 12 from Matt Henry and an 18 from Glenn Phillips. That was it. 4 for 17 from Fazal Haq Farooqi, 4 for 17 from Rashid Khan, and a couple for the President, Mohammed Nabi. So an absolute stomping of the teal-clad New Zealanders. Hall of Fame, what's jumped out at you this game or yesterday or whenever you've been watching?
I mean, I'll stick to today's game. And for me, just seeing Matthew Wade be Matthew Wade again was almost fun. Like, it was a lot of fun. I mean, look, he hasn't been the most popular cricketer outside Australia. I know that for a fact. A lot of people, cricket fans overseas, are not his biggest fans because he's in your face, isn't he? He's just like so rough and tough.
I think he's less so now. Like, I think he was. Exactly. He was playing up to that when he was asked to do that job. But I think he's pulled his head in these last few years of his career.
He has, and which is why it was so good to see him sort of, like, it's almost like you're watching a TV show after a long time and one of your favorite characters is back. Like, that's what it felt like. And he was, just the way he was. And I think he does it with less spite, if that makes sense. I'm not saying there was spite earlier, but just it comes across as less spite as he's enjoying himself. Even his exchange with umpire Nitin Menon and then with Adil Rashid, after that ball which was not called dead. And I'm with the umpire. Like, he got into position. You can't just then step away and like decide that the ball is dead. Like, So, but just him, and then even in the field when Maxwell was bowling and you could hear him from behind the stumps, I was like, the old Matthew Wade is back, even if only for one night.
All right, my Hall of Fame, I'm giving it to Pat Cummins. We've been saying for ages that players need to be less fussy about their wickets, about losing their wickets late in a run chase. 2 balls to go. He's got, who do you have at the other end? Wade at the other end.
Yeah.
And he swings at the ball and misses, and as soon as he misses, he goes, okay, I just want to get Matthew Wade on strike. I'm prepared to give up my wicket for it. And so Wade takes off for the bye. Cummins stays in his ground, keeps his bat in his ground and waits for Buttler to throw at the stumps and waits for the ball to miss and then takes off down the other end and gets run out at the other end. Because he knows that if he leaves and crosses with Wade and Buttler hits the stumps, Wade is out. And so he needs to make sure that Matthew Wade doesn't get out first. That's his first job, and it doesn't matter if he's run out for 0 off 1. That's a level of leadership, and it's a level of cricket smarts. I loved that from Pat Cummins. All right, the battery is about to run out on this phone doing the recording. So let's call it off here. This has been day 8.2. Geoff Lemon, Bharat Sundaresan, the final word. Daily, we'll be back with you for the big one, India-Pakistan, tomorrow.